Hello and welcome to Good or Bad. Let me begin today by telling you a little story of how difficult it was to get a hold of a copy of this film. Yet at the same time, it was incredibly easy to watch though. Look at it, right there, on Amazon Prime in glorious remastered quality. Yet despite it being readily available on Amazon Prime, getting an actual copy of this film? Not easy. I searched high and low, and eBay was the only place I could find one. So I took the plunge, bought the copy. Yes, I paid money for this shit show. And then, it never arrived. So I got a refund. So it turns out I haven't paid money for this shit show, so that's something. And I couldn't find a single of a copy anywhere else on the interwebs. So I went on YouTube and downloaded a copy from there that's in terrible quality and has Japanese subtitles, but that's the best we're gonna get. But you know what? The quality of this copy is very much reflective of the quality of the movie, so I guess it's a match made in heaven. So yeah, this is Cruel Jaws. It's like regular Jaws, I guess, but cruel, because he was such a lovely chappie, wasn't he? But yes, this movie was released in 1995 and was directed by Bruno Mattei. Well, I say it was released in 1995, most of it was. The rest of the film was released in whatever year the film they happened to steal the clips from was released in. Yeah, it's one of those. This film uses stock footage from Jaws and Jaws 2, but it doesn't bother to steal anything from Jaws 3 and 4, so at least it has taste. Oh, and it's not just Jaws that it stole from. It stole from The Last Shark as well, and probably some others. Although I've not seen The Last Shark yet, so I could only really spot the Jaws scenes. But I'm willing to bet that it's any of the scenes that aren't Jaws and also don't look completely like arse. Also, I like how it tries to fool us by zooming in when it steals some clips. Nice try, but you ain't fooling anyone. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin. Right, so we've got some people on a boat. Good. Good strong start there. 10 out of 10. These people on a boat are trying to plunder a sunken Navy ship and get rich.
There was top secret Navy material on board the Cleveland. We're going down to retrieve it. We're gonna sell it, and we're gonna be rich.
Also, this film has fantastic acting. I mean, Oscars all round, right? But yeah, there they go, diving away. I'm sure nothing bad's gonna happen to them. In fact, let's skip ahead to the bit where nothing bad happens to them. Ah yes, here he is. Here's Naughty Jaws. Oh, so the shark roars. A very classic shark move, that. You can tell when this movie uses its own footage because it looks like it comes from the 40s. Sounds like it too. I find that films back then, during monster scenes like this, they would have a way of making everything overly loud in an attempt to overwhelm us. And this movie does that exact same trick, but it doesn't work. It just looks and sounds terrible. So, good job! So now that those two divers have been mouthed to death, Mean Jaws goes after the guy on the boat. So, that were our intro, and it were awful, but you know what? At least it sets our expectations fairly accurately for the rest of the film. Hokey acting and bad effects. But what it doesn't set our expectations for is how much it rips off from the Jaws franchise. And I don't mean the stock footage. That's bad enough, but I am talking about the movie as a whole. Because let me tell you what the story is about. Awful Jaws starts chomping people up in the summer town of Not Amity Island. And a shark expert named Not Hooper teams up with his family, who collectively play the part of Not Brody, and try to convince Not Mayor Vaughn that there is a killer shark on the loose. and that the beaches need closing. But not Mayor Vaughn and the other town officials need the beaches open because...
we need summer dollars.
Yes, Mayor Vaughn, you are correct. So the first body washes up on the beach, which leads them to do the killer whale scene from Jaws 2. And by that I mean it's the exact same scene. Yeah, sure, one is a human body and one is an orca. But the dialogue they have over the body is ripped straight out of that scene in Jaws 2. He even says, I think it's a shark, but it could be a killer whale. And you know what, movie? The fact that you are referencing that it's a killer whale in Jaws 2 doesn't change the fact that you are ripping it off, you fish head of a movie. And this leads them to need to be doubly sure, so they take the body for an autopsy. And guess what this means? It's the autopsy scene from Jaws. And surprise, surprise, not Mayor Vaughn doesn't listen to the expert's opinion and refuses to close the beaches. And that very night, a couple go to the beach and horrible Jaws strikes again. And you know how this has strong opening of Jaws vibes? Well, instead of ripping that off 100%, they have the man go in the water too. Which changes everything, doesn't it? I mean, it's completely different now. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that only the woman dies and the man still ends up in a police station saying, a shark ate my girlfriend. But other than that, it's completely different. I mean, what is definitely different is that the opening of Jaws was good. This looked really, really bland. So you've nailed that down. Can't deny that. You've definitely got bland down to a T, so be proud of yourself. Well done. You soup spoon. I don't know what that was, that's the best I had apparently. So, despite yet another shark attack, the officials keep the beaches open because...
we need summer dollars.
Yes, thank you, Vaughn. You see, there is an upcoming event that always brings in money and is the most profitable time of the year. Kind of like in Jaws, where there was that most profitable time of the year looming over them, and that's why they didn't want to close the beaches. But, to be fair, in Jaws, it was the 4th of July weekend. In this, it's the annual regatta celebration. So it's clearly completely different. But before we get to the ill-fated day, the movie needs to do the people kill a shark and it turns out to be the wrong shark and not Mayor Vaughn strings it up at the dock scene. You know, like that scene in Jaws. And not Hooper literally says the same goddamn lines Hooper said in this scene. No shame. This movie has no shame. So, you know how in Jaws, after they do the kill the wrong shark scene, Hooper and Brody go out and find Ben Gardner's boat, and then they describe a tooth they found in the wreckage, which proves that the shark they caught was in fact the wrong shark. Remember how well paced that was? Well, this film tacks that onto the dead shark at the dock scene.
What happened?
We found it adrift. It was half full of water. There was nobody aboard.
Now, you're not going to try and tell me that that was done by a shark, too.
If I were you, I'd cancel this regatta.
So let me get this right. He just walks into the boat, finds some bloody cloth, and that's supposed to convince the mayor that there's still definitely a shark out there. How did you think that was going to convince the mayor? Because, yeah, sure, the boat has some damage on it, but there's no signs that it was a shark attack, no teeth or anything. Because he has ignored so much actual evidence that there is still a shark out there, that you're half-arsed, look, there's a slightly damaged boat with no signs of a shark attack. It must have been a shark attack. That was never going to convince him at this point. So yeah, the celebration goes ahead. And would you Adam and Eve it, but people get killed. I have to admit though, putting a giant shark net around the area wasn't a terrible idea. It's a shame sadistic Jaws just swims on through it though, isn't it? And this scene involves lots of boats being attacked, which of course prompts some lovely stock footage from various different shark movies. And for some reason, Bad Jaws has a red beach ball tethered to him. Not entirely sure why, probably to reference the yellow barrels in Jaws. So overall, this shark attack scene ranges from decent to meh. With the decent scenes, of course, coming from other movies. So credit where credit's due. Well done to the creators of the Jaws films and The Last Shark. As for inconsiderate Jaws, they couldn't even be bothered finishing a death scene. You could argue that they were going for less is more, but I would argue that they just couldn't be arsed. Right, so it's the hospital scene from Jaws. And you know what, I'm getting fed up with this now. The mayor puts a cash prize on killing the shark, which of course prompts ripping off more scenes from Jaws. And a very surprising one from Jurassic Park as well.
All you gotta do is put a bullet in its head and it's fucked, right?
The tiger shark we're looking for is a homicidal maniac. When it attacks here, in the middle of your belly and your guts are out, the trouble is, you're still alive when he starts eating you. Now that you know, you should have more respect for him.
Because going after one of Spielberg's creations just wasn't enough? Oh, and this bit. The bit where they leave the town to go and hunt the shark. Tell me this soundtrack doesn't sound familiar. Okay. So, right. You spend the movie ripping off scenes from Jaws, from The Last Shark, other shark films, fine, it's all shark stuff. I get that. Then you take a little bit out of Jurassic Park, fine, dinosaurs are in that, they eat people. Sharks are in this, they eat people. I see the connection there, I guess. But the soundtrack to Star Wars. I'm lost for words. I mean, if your objective was to confuse me, well done. Okay, so they go out, waste our time, do more lines from Jaws, then the shark gets blown up. Right, so with all that said and done, let's look at some of the other elements from Nasty Jaws. The mayor was trying to get rid of the Not Brody family to build a hotel where they live. And it turns out that he has dealings with some mob-type people, who throughout the film become increasingly agitated that he repeatedly fails to get rid of them and deal with this shark. So they decide to dispatch some goons to deal with evil Jaws themselves. Then immediately they fail and die, and that's the end of that plot thread. Pointless! It was just pure, unnecessary filler to break up the play-for-play Jaws scenes. Also, on top of that, there's a love story. This ought to be good. One of our main characters is in love with the daughter of the mayor, and their families are rivals. Yeah, they got some Romeo and Juliet stuff going on here. And you know what? This may come as a massive shock to you all, but I couldn't care in the slightest about this. But in retaliation for dating his daughter, they go and beat him up. And then they break into their home and poison their dolphins, who are then immediately cured and fine. So what was the point? And then we have to contend with the fact that this movie shoehorns a little story where this shark is no ordinary shark. It is in fact a Navy-bred killing machine shark, which is designed to be deployed behind enemy lines and eat the hell out of them. And you know what? If the movie had never have mentioned this, we wouldn't have even noticed. So yeah, apparently the Navy made this shark, and was transporting it to a naval facility or wherever, and the ship sank and Despicable Jaws escaped. Ignoring the complete lack of safety precautions the Navy put into transporting this shark, I think the biggest problem with this idea is that they do sod all with it. All we get is a Jaws rip-off, then they state that it's a super shark. But they never actually show that it's a super shark. They just say it is. And saying's not enough. You need to show it. For a comparison, look at Deep Blue Sea. That has the fact that the sharks are scientifically engineered to be smarter and more brutal, woven into the entire story of the film. But in this film, there's just no point to it. In fact, imagine if at the end of Jaws, they'd have just said, "Oh, it's not an ordinary shark, it's a super duper killing machine shark that's bred by the Navy to be a super duper duper killing machine." And then just carried on as it was going to anyway. That's exactly what this film does. And it doesn't work. Nefarious Jaws acts like the shark did in Jaws. The Navy never shows up, so that doesn't impact the plot, and the movie would have ended exactly the same goddamn way if they'd have just left the Navy-bred aspect out of the film completely. So at the end of the day, all this film is a vastly inferior version of Jaws that makes some half-assed attempts to add something original to it. And by original, what I really mean is something that Jaws didn't do. Yeah, that's my bar for originality here. And by the way, this film does not hit that bar often. So that's Cruel Jaws, a stupid, nonsensical mess that quite literally has nothing new to offer at all. You have been watching Good or Bad, and this film is definitely bad. See you next time.